just so you can see a side-by-side comparison, this is the Vocalstrip. So bigger interface, nothing is really cluttered. You kind of have the same compressor and EQ. However, one thing I've noticed was that the de-esser has changed a lot, even though it has the same controls on it. I haven't really tested side by side what the compressor looks like, but you can also see the GUI of this plugin is a lot more streamlined. You go bam, 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 bam. Each one looks like it's its own individual module in this case. So I want to give you a demonstration of what the Vocalstrip sounds like. This is the Vocals Dry.
So the guides and drives this lifetime, round and round we go. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll.
Now I want to give you the same vocals, but with the Vocalstrip running.
So the guides and drives this lifetime, round and round we go. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know.
You can hear the vocals are more up front, they are brighter. We're able to control a lot of the sibilants, even though we have turned up the high frequencies quite a bit. But to better explain how the Vocalstrip works, I'm going to redo this Vocalstrip setup so you can hear the changes being made in real time. So let's turn off the Vocalstrip. So this will help you guys understand how I tweak vocals. Like I've said in my other videos, this is on the Voc bus. The Voc bus pulls in all my vocals from the individual stems and sub-individual stems. So my ad-libs, chorus, and other stuff that he does. They all funnel inside of this Voc bus. Now I'm going to open this up and I'm going to give this a listen. We're just going to loop the chorus.
So the guides and drives this lifetime, round and round we go. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us.
Now, taking in consideration that I've done some parallel compression on this track already, I'm going to start with what I hear. So one of the things you can hear is the de-essing. There's usually a place to start. So I'm going to turn on the de-esser. I'm going to crank the frequency all the way up. Yes, I'm going to turn on look ahead because we have computer resources to spare. And I'm going to listen. I'm going to see where the de-esser does not catch the S's anymore on the frequency knob.
So the guides and drives this lifetime, round and round we go. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. Round and round we go. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should.
About right there, you can kind of hear the vocals starting to darken. So now I found what I like to call a breakpoint at the de-esser where it does its job well and then it does its job too much. Then we adjust the threshold.
So the guides and drives this lifetime, round and round we go. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. We've been through this before. Lessons learned, boy, you should.
And right there, this is where that breakpoint is again, where it does too much versus doing its job. If you hear some high frequency essing, those are sibilants that will have to be taken out manually or using a plugin like Wave Sibilants, which I'll show in another video. But as far as the de-esser goes, we're pretty much locked in place. The next thing I do is move over to the EQ. The EQ, remember, we have one band to notch out a resonance and one for boosting whatever we want to. So this is how I usually work it.
Been through this before. Lesson learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lesson learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lesson learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time.
So what I'm doing with this, I'm looking for the high frequency that you can turn up, but it doesn't add any more sibilance and it doesn't add any more striking S and T sounds that will cause fatigue in your ear. This is what I like to call air. It's a set of frequencies that's able to lift up the presence of the vocal without causing high frequency fatigue. And so you probably saw me lift it up about 6 dB and back it off just so I can make enough change. And that's about it. Just enough. Now I'm going to listen for any resonances that is causing a major problem with the recording, not with the mixing of the elements, but within the recording. Maybe it was a room tone or something that shouldn't be in there.
Been through this before. Lesson learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lesson learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lesson learned, boy, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know. De-essing. Came to do some healing. Down on earth I came to sing, but I'm doing other things. All a part of the journey. Never lose a part of me that knows behind the mind and body there is a soul that guides and drives this lifetime. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lesson learned, boy.
So as far as the mid-range was recorded pretty well. So what I did was notch out a little bit of the aggressiveness on the high end that's causing a little bit too much sparkle. And if you look at the FFT display, a lot of what you see up there are the resonances in the vocals. But the reason why you want to listen carefully, because not every resonance needs to be taken out. A lot of that is just the vocal format just being shown on the FFT display. You really only want to listen to the boxiness or that one frequency that's causing your vocal to sound like they recorded it in a closet, in a room, or somewhere undesirable. Once I get that straightened out, we got the de-esser, we have the equalizer. I normally ignore the plosives. I do those manually. We move to the compander. Off the bat, I don't use the expander. I only use the compressor settings. I work with the soft knee because I like to use this as a bus compressor. So I want it to start compressing as soon as possible. I want a nice rounded shape on my vocals. And I run the drive as one, an automatic makeup gain, and two, because a lot of my recordings that I'm receiving from people do not have enough harmonics embedded inside of them. If you recorded this at a good $20,000, $100,000 studio, you may not need this drive harmonic saturation part inside of here. So let's go ahead and give a demonstration of how I compress. The first thing I do is move the threshold to a negative 12 dB of gain reduction. The point of me doing this to a negative 12 dB because usually around a negative 12 dB is where you can A, hear the pumping, or B, hear the difference between the attack and release times within the vocal. And you're going to find that this is going to be really apparent when I adjust the attack. So let's adjust the attack.
Came to do some healing. Down on earth I came to sing, but I'm doing other things. All a part of the journey. Never lose a part of me that knows behind the mind and body there is a soul.
So as you saw, when I moved it to 0.1 milliseconds, it almost chewed up the vocal. The minute it went to around 7 to 10, you are able to hear all the throat inside of the vocal. What I'm listening for is the point at which all of the person's speech, the word, the entire phrase is able to come out, each individual one. I'm not really worried about the compressor choking on the vocal. That's due to the release time and the ratio. As long as I move the attack time and I can restore the attack and fullness of a word, that's where I want my attack to stay. Because at that point, I know that the vocal intelligibility is being able to be met.
Came to do some healing. Down on earth I came to sing, but I'm doing other things.
You can listen to a vocal like this, it really pushes it forward. The next thing I'm going to do is adjust the release. Now, the release is more of a how you feel type of thing. Depending on the song you're working with, you're going to want a longer release if you want a more compressed, saturated vocal, or a shorter release if you want more of a bounced pumpiness feeling.
Came to do some healing. Down on earth I came to sing, but I'm doing other things. All a part of the journey. Never lose a part of me that knows behind the mind and body there is a soul that guides and drives this lifetime. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lessons learned, oh you should know that I think it's time for us to roll.
For me, since I'm using this as a bus compressor, I'd rather have the chorus be the common denominator in this scenario, and I want that chorus to sit on top of my instrument. So I don't want the tail ends of the phrases to linger on. I want the music to provide that body. Leave the vocals on top. So I am compressing for the entire sustain of the vocal. That is the reason why I'm keeping it around 100 milliseconds. Now, if you reach this point and you're saying it's being compressed too much, you're currently correct because the ratio is still set at 4:1. So now we're going to dial this ratio back to where we want to have as much compression as we feel like it needs. Sometimes you can keep it 4:1. You can make it 2:1. This part is literally up to your ears.
Came to do some healing. Down on earth I came to sing, but I'm doing other things. All a part of the journey. Never lose a part of me that knows behind the mind and body there is a soul that guides and drives this lifetime. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lessons learned, oh you should know that I think it's time for us to roll.
Again, I'm going for a bus compressor style. So I just want it to a point where the verse and the chorus sound like they're not really moving, regardless if there are transients or areas where the average level picks up. I want it to be smooth and steady. So at this point, we can bypass the plugin, and this is what we're getting.
Came to do some healing. Down on earth I came to sing, but I'm doing other things. All a part of the journey. Never lose a part of me that knows behind the mind and body there is a that guides and drives this lifetime. Round and round we go. No, we've been through this before. Lessons learned, oh, you should know that I think it's time for us to roll. You gotta know.
And just like that, we have literally cleaned up this vocal, pocketed the vocal, increased its high frequency presence, and pushed it forward inside of the mix. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you like me, like and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to the next video. Deuces, people. Have fun mixing.